Good evening. Welcome to News Now on TV360. I am Thelma Okoro. A Court of Appeal panel sitting in Abuja has upheld the ruling of the Governorship Election Tribunal of Rivers State. The court said Wednesday that Nyesom Wike, the governorship candidate of the People's Democratic Party in this year's election, was not validly elected. The Rivers Tribunal had earlier on October 24th nullified Wike's election. The tribunal, which delivered its ruling in Abuja, also ordered that a fresh governorship election be conducted in the state. After the tribunal's ruling, the governor headed to the Court of Appeal saying the judgment was untenable. However, the petition challenging the election of Wike as Rivers State's governor was filed by Dakuku Peterside, the candidate of the All Progressives Congress in the election. Meanwhile, Wike has instructed his lawyers to appeal today's judgment of the Court of Appeal by filing a fresh suit at the Supreme Court. The Department of State Service (DSS) has withdrawn all the charges it filed against the director of Radio Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu. Kanu is standing trial for alleged criminal conspiracy, managing and belonging to an unlawful society, as well as criminal intimidation. At the court hearing on Monday, the judge had fixed Thursday, December 17th as the date for the hearing of his bail application. However, at the resumed hearing on Wednesday, the court discharged the accused after the DSS withdrew the charges against him. The DSS had elected to withdraw the case at the lower court for a higher court, which has jurisdiction to entertain charges bordering on terrorism, to take over. Meanwhile, counsel to Kanu, Vincent Obeta, has said all processes to secure his release are currently being cleared. President Muhammad Buhari is hosting the extraordinary summit of the Economic Community of West African States, Authority of Heads of State and Government, to mark its 40th anniversary. The main item on the agenda of the summit will be the current political situation in Burkina Faso. President Buhari has condemned the coup d'etat in Burkina Faso and called for immediate restoration of civil transitional authority in the country. He urged the defense and security forces of Burkina Faso to keep faith with the agreed transitional program for the return of the country to democratic rule. Nigeria President Muhammad Buhari says he did not receive $300,000 or any monetary compensation from the Jonathan administration or any of its officials in the aftermath of an attack on his convoy. The president's comment was contained in a statement by his spokesperson, Femi Adesina. It was made in response to reports that he had received money and 5 armored SUVs from the office of the National Security Advisor in the aftermath of the attack that occurred on July 23, 2014. The statement said while it is true that 1 armored SUV and 1 untreated SUV were sent to the president in the aftermath of the attack, the vehicles were in his keeping with his entitlements as a former head of state. It added that there was nothing illegal and untoward tending to corruption, receiving vehicles to which he was statutorily entitled to by the federal government of Nigeria. Since assuming office, President Buhari has embarked on an anti-corruption campaign aimed at retrieving funds stolen by government officials of the past administration. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has justified the inconclusiveness that has characterized elections in the country, arguing that the fairness, freeness and credibility of the electoral process are sacrosanct. The chairman, INEC, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, made this known at the presentation of the Commission's 11th public lecture in Abuja. The chairman noted that the inconclusiveness of the election in the last 2 weeks were not without precedent, adding that progress has been made lately compared to the elections of the past.
The truth is that our elections are getting better, and because they are getting better, they are also becoming more competitive. By the same token, citizens are increasingly more confident that the votes now rarely count. INEC will continue to ensure that the credibility of our election is always sacrosanct. Acts of thuggery, ballot box stuffing and snatching, willful violation of guidelines, for instance, deliberate avoidance of the smart card reader, will always attract sanctions. At the same time, the threshold for the emergence of winners as contained in our guidelines will never be compromised. While the threshold is not met, we shall apply the guidelines as they have been applied in the past. The inconclusive elections in the last 2 weeks are not without precedence. In fact, it wasn't the first time, not the second time, not the third time, not the fourth time, not the fifth time that INEC is cancelling elections and running them for the credibility of the process. The elections in Imo and Bauchi in 2011 were not concluded on first ballot. 4 local governments in Imo, 2 local governments in Bauchi, Misawaniki. In Anambra in 2013, the election was not concluded on first ballot. And again in Imo, and many people don't remember, in Taraba State in 2015, the elections were not concluded on first ballot. Imo was rerun for the second time. In Taraba, I think about 3 local governments, Donga, Ukari, and Zing, were rerun in order to conclude the elections. For the 2 governorship elections that we held not too long ago, Nigerians would have noticed that the election reflects the national average in terms of voter turnout. Some of you recall that in the last election conducted in one of the states in 2011 or 2012, the margin between the winner and the runner-up was 417,000 votes, which translates to over 80%. Today, in the inconclusive election, the margin between the leading candidate and the second candidate is 33,000 votes. The elections are getting better, and because they are getting better, they are getting more competitive. Because they are getting more competitive, the result is not only reflecting the national average, but also the global pattern. The elections are neck and neck. This is a reality that as a commission we have to live with.
Uche Secondus has been removed as the acting national chairman of the People's Democratic Party, PDP. A federal high court in Abuja, chaired by Justice Hussein Baba Yusuf, sacked Secondus, ordering him to vacate the chairmanship seat of the PDP within 14 days. The court order followed a suit filed by the former special advisor to former President Goodluck Jonathan on political matters, Ahmed Gulak. Goodluck had also sued the PDP, alleging that Secondus was holding office illegally. He said the office of national chairman was originally zoned to the northeast part of the country and could not therefore be occupied by Secondus, who is from the south-south part of the country. Meanwhile, counsel to the PDP, Paul Isaiah, says the opposition party will challenge the judgment. The Director General National Space Research and Development Agency, Saidu Mohammed, has called on government to consider increased funding for the space industry, saying no nation can develop without technology. Speaking in Abuja during the visit of a delegation of the Sudanese Space Agency to his office, the Director General expressed joy that African countries are beginning to discover that space technology is not a luxury, but a necessary requirement for measuring up with the pace of global advancement.
More and more people in Africa are realizing the fact that space is no longer a luxury. If you must develop, space is a choice technology to enable any nation leapfrog in Africa, be it in agriculture, be it in water resources development, be it in environment, calculating climate change signatures, and other areas, including communication. And I believe that Africa can move very fast, improve the standard of living, improve its GDP, using all these technologies that are currently available to us. If we must improve our wealth, if we must improve our technology and have social stability in Africa, something special has to be done in form of, looking inward, creating new opportunities for our people in communication. And our population is fast growing all over Africa. In the case of Nigeria, we said it's over 3%, which is one of the fastest growing populations all over the world. We believe there's a lot we must do and a lot we can do. And that is why in recent time, the emphasis has been not only government, but the private sector to take up responsibilities and be in a proper driving seat.
9 foreign nationals have been convicted and sentenced for stealing a huge quantity of crude oil from Nigeria. A federal high court sitting in Lagos sentenced the foreigners, made up of 5 Filipinos and 4 Bangladeshis, to 20 years imprisonment each, with fine options of 20 million naira per person for crimes relating to crude oil theft in Nigeria. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission (EFCC) had dragged the 9 foreigners before the court, alleging that on or about March 27, 2015 in Lagos, they conspired to commit an offense involving illegally dealing in crude oil without lawful authority or appropriate license. Their trial commenced on June 23rd, and the EFCC called 6 witnesses in proof of its case against the foreigners before the court finally arrived at a guilty verdict 6 months later. In handing down the sentence, Justice Bubu said he was satisfied that the EFCC proved its case beyond reasonable doubt. He also ordered that their vessel, empty as Terry, be forfeited to the federal government of Nigeria, together with the crude oil on board. We'll take a short break now. When we come back, we'll look at business and international stories. Please stay tuned.
Hello, you're welcome. You're watching the Funny White Man Show, which is the biggest, the brightest, and the most entertaining show in Africa.
Funny white man, funny white man, funny white man, but this way you talk, it's too much. Give me 5,000 man that you. It's too much. So you get it like, when she move along the street, yeah, me should like there, I'm going girl. You know, my own people, actually. Yeah, fine, it's fun. I enjoy it. And I'm one of those very few, I'm forever taking it personal. I will say 160 million Nigerians are corrupt. How? My brother, I'm looking for you.
Yeah, but it's a growth, and this is the time to build business and know the pitfalls and know what to do and what not to do. But there are months where you get business and months.
You know how we do, how we train them. We did the way you did
Hello, you're welcome. You're watching Trending Matters on the Funny White Man Show. Of course, they will bring you trending issues just to entertain and tickle your fancy.
Welcome back. This is TV360 News now. To business stories. Nigeria plans to raise 67.45 billion naira by selling treasury bills with maturities of 3 and 6 months on December 24th, the central bank said on Wednesday. The CBN said it will issue 28.12 billion naira worth of 3-month paper and 39.33 billion naira of 6 months using the Dutch auction system. The result of the auction is expected the following day. Oil fell on Wednesday on fresh evidence of growing global oversupply. Brent was down 86 cents at $37.59 a barrel, while U.S. futures fell 60 cents to $36.75 a barrel after rising more than $1 on Tuesday. OPEC Secretary General Abdullah Al-Badri on Tuesday said current low oil prices would not continue and will change in a few months or even in a year. He added that any decision by the United States to export oil will not have further impact on oil prices. Thousands of South Africans on Wednesday took to the streets to call for the resignation of their president, Jacob Zuma. The marchers demanded President Zuma step down in rallies across the country, blaming him for a week of financial turmoil triggered by his sacking of the finance minister. Zuma appointed David Van Rooyen, a former mayor, after sacking the widely respected Lanlanini last Wednesday, a move that caused a selling frenzy in the rand bonds and stock market. He then changed his mind late on Sunday and reappointed former finance minister Pravin Gordhan to the post he held from 2009 to 2014. Meanwhile, senior leaders in the ruling ANC have rejected all the calls for Zuma to be replaced. A Muslim rebel leader in Central African Republic has declared an autonomous state in a stronghold and said he will seek independence. This has led the country's transitional government to call for international actions against him. Nuruddin Adam, head of the Seleka rebels FPRC faction, made the proclamation from his headquarters in the town of Kagabondoro on Monday after rejecting a national election due this month that is aimed at ending years of bloodshed. It followed a referendum on Sunday on a new constitution, a requirement for the election. Polling was marred by violence between rival factions, but a government minister said on Tuesday it appeared that voters had approved the proposed reforms. Adams had called for the referendum and election to be cancelled, and campaigners, including Human Rights Watch, accused him of using intimidation to block voting in areas under his control. Moving on to sports now, three-time African Footballer of the Year Samuel Eto'o has been appointed player manager of Turkish club Antalyaspor on a short-term contract. The 34-year-old former Cameroon international, who moved to Turkey in June after leaving Sampdoria, will succeed Yusuf Simsek and will be assisted by the club's technical director, Mehmet Uglu. The club will make a decision about whether to give Eto'o the role permanently after the winter break. Suspended FIFA President Sepp Blatter has written a letter to FIFA's 209 member associations pleading his innocence as he awaits a final judgment from FIFA's Ethics Committee. The 79-year-old is currently serving a 90-day provisional ban which could be extended by 45 days following investigations being conducted on him by the Ethics Committee over a £1.3 million payment made to Platini in 2011. Blatter, who faces a possible life ban when he appears before the FIFA Ethics Committee at the governing body's headquarters in Zurich on Thursday, said, has now written out to FIFA's member associations questioning the credibility of the Ethics Committee. Suspended UEFA President Michel Platini will not attend his hearing before FIFA's Ethics Committee on Friday, his lawyer has announced. Platini is currently serving a 90-day ban following investigations of an alleged payment made by Blatter to Platini in 2011 over work done several years ago. He was expected to appear before the Ethics Committee on Friday as the governing body makes a final decision on his matter. But his lawyers have now said that the client would not attend the hearing. His lawyer said Platini chose to boycott the hearing after the verdict was already announced to the press by a spokesperson, which is against the presumption of innocence. Platini was a clear favorite to succeed Sepp Blatter as FIFA president until Swiss authorities questioned them on September 25th over a $2 million payment to the Frenchman from FIFA. We have come to the end of news now. Thank you very much for joining us. I am Thelma Okoro.